have Chairman Michael McCall with us from the Homeland Security Committee. He was on ground zero just earlier this week. He's going to focus on some of the legislation to help those in law enforcement, continue our efforts to identify and mitigate threats, and strengthen the information sharing among agencies. We're also going to have Representative Tom Graves from the Appropriations Committee. He's been one of the leaders and really instrumental in this package that is moving forward on the floor this week. And then we're going to continue focusing on the legislation that's really part of our priority to ensure people's safety and security in this country.
Thank you, Kathy. 2 days ago, I stood at Ground Zero on hallowed ground where the names of nearly 3,000 innocent people who were killed by the terrorists on 9/11 were read out loud. For many of us here, it's living history, but to a younger generation of Americans, it's textbook history. I think it's important that we never forget and we always remember what happened on that fateful day. There's no more solemn obligation, in my judgment, than to protect Americans. And that is why the Department of Homeland Security was created, and my committee was created as well. And to that end, the House will pass 10 of my committee's bipartisan bills this week to further the department's mission of protecting Americans by connecting the dots and providing greater intelligence sharing. This week, we will also pass the Make America Secure and Prosperous Appropriations Act, which will provide more funding for our Homeland Security operations. I would also like to recognize, as a Texan and an American, the relief efforts of our first responders in Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. I saw them firsthand, and they, along with FEMA, the Coast Guard, and the National Guard, and private citizens in Operation Dunkirk, we called it, in private boats, saved countless lives. And I saw it personally. 15,000 lives were saved in the state of Texas, and thousands are being saved right now as I speak in Florida. I'd also like to recognize the volunteers, the churches, the shelters that I went to who provide compassion in a time of need. And out of these tragedies will come great acts of heroism and kindness. So today, our thoughts and prayers are with these victims and their families. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman McCall, for your leadership and leadership team here for your quick and swift action as we've all been dealing with some challenges. First, I want to say a few words about the hurricanes and their impact on Georgia. I want to thank President Trump for his swift response and Governor Deal and his leadership team for how they have helped all of Georgians through this time. Georgia now stands united with Texans and Floridians and all of the Southeast as we begin a great rebuilding effort. We have a lot of flooding, a lot of damage, and a lot of downed trees and a lot to clean up in the weeks and the months ahead. But our heart aches with the many families who have lost loved ones during this difficult time. But I do want to highlight a couple of extraordinary responses that have happened in Georgia. We've had an amazing team of Georgians who get together and support one another, neighbors supporting neighbors and helping through this time. And after the storm has passed, the Georgia Department of Transportation initially reported over 1,100 different road closures, and just within 18 to 24 hours had gotten that down to just 100. And in the worst point, 1.5 million Georgians were without power, and to this point, they have cut that in more than half for the Georgia families. And that is because of the great work of the line crews and the crews that are out throughout the days and the nights over the last several hours, so I want to thank them for that. So all that's to say is that Georgia is strong, the pickup trucks are out, the chainsaws are being fired up, and we're ready to take part in this great American recovery effort. So I've also been asked to talk about the Make America Secure and Prosperous Act that we intend to finish this week. I have to give credit to the members standing up here today. These leaders decided to go big, and that's what we're doing. They had faith in Chairman Freeling-Heisen and the committee members to get the job done. By the end of this week, the House will be the first Republican majority since 2004 to pass all 12 appropriation bills on time. And this bill is true to its name, and it's true to our principles. We make America safe by funding our military and securing our borders. We'll make Americans prosperous by restoring our financial freedom so all Americans can can earn a living and achieve their dreams. And I'll say something very obvious here. Americans entrusted our party. They entrusted us with the White House and majorities in both chambers of Congress. And so if you take a look at this package, these are the policies we were elected to pass. So this is the U.S. House saying, we hear you, we're with you, and we're ready to get this done.
I first want to address something that Representative Gutierrez said at the end of last week about White House Chief of Staff General John Kelly. We all know General Kelly is a retired general and the highest ranking service member to have ever lost a child in battle. General Kelly has served his country in the Marines. He is serving his country again in this administration. He is truly an American patriot. Now, what is disgraceful is to attack the character of such an honorable man who has dedicated his life to serving this country and whose family gave the ultimate sacrifice. I believe Representative Gutierrez owes General Kelly and his family an apology. Yesterday, I put together a conference call for a number of the members who were affected with Irma, with the White House, FEMA, and DHS, much that we did within Texas as well. I don't think this country has seen two major devastations like this so back to back. But the preparedness of the first responders to not even have the rest to be able to go down into Florida and Georgia to rescue those individuals, this country owes a deep debt of gratitude to. And this Congress will continue to act to be able to be there and help rebuild those that have been affected. Now on this floor, we're going to do something many of you never believed we could achieve. I want to give you a few quotes of, I looked back. When we talked about that we would run an open process, have an appropriation process that runs through the committee, subcommittee, full committee, and take all 12 bills to the floor and debate them. Some of the comments said it was complete fiction, to not anytime soon, to the full reporting series of James Arkin of Congress, fiscal woes. Well, you know what, today, we're proving you wrong. We'll finish the debate, and tomorrow we will pass all 12. And we will pass them with the majority in Congress. I believe the Senate should do the same, with a simple majority of the Senate, which the American public believes should be done. If they believe the House has the authority with the appropriations to pass it with the majority, the Senate should waive the 60 rule and pass it with a simple majority and take it to the President's desk.
First, I want to also talk about Hurricane Irma. Our hearts go out to the people who've lost family members. People are in the midst of responding right now. A lot of people haven't even gotten back to their homes to see what the status is. So there are millions of people who are still without power, and there are millions of people who are still finding out what's happening in their communities. And if the anniversary of 9/11 and the human response to Hurricane Harvey have reminded us anything, it is that no matter the tragedy, our country is a resilient country. Americans are resilient. Americans pitch in and help each other. And so I think what we're witnessing just this week, whether it's Harvey or Irma or the anniversary of 9/11, is that we pitch in together and help one another. And that is on display in Texas, in Georgia, in Florida, and all across this country. And I think it's just important that we take a little pause and see and recognize that so that we can nurture, preserve, and extend that and teach it to our kids. We're compassionate people, and we rise up to help each other. Now, we're going to continue to support Florida, Texas, and the other states affected by these natural disasters. And obviously, we've got a ways to go to understand the full extent of this, and we're waiting to hear from OMB as to what needs will be needed as time goes on. This week, I want to echo what the majority leader said. This week, the House is going to vote on all of the appropriation bills. This week, the House is going to vote on all of the appropriation bills before the fiscal year deadline. To people who don't pay attention to this process, that sounds like a normal no. Speaker, I made a commitment to regular order to working with both sides of the aisle to spend taxpayers the right way and to go through regular order, and that's exactly what we are doing. Each one of these bills went through subcommittee, went through full committee, is now on the floor, and went through hundreds of amendments. I want to thank Chairman Rodney Frelinghuysen and his entire committee for their fantastic work on this. Next up, we need the Senate, and the Senate.
This morning that a consensus tax framework would be out the week of September 25th.
Right.
That's consensus among the big six. Is there consensus among the Republican Congress?
Yeah, so what Chairman Brady announced to our members this morning is that on the week of the 25th, September 25th, there's going to be an outline that is released which reflects the consensus of the tax writing committees, Ways and Means and Finance, and the administration. And so what Chairman Brady laid out is the ongoing process for comprehensive tax reform and tax cuts for middle-class families this year. And it starts with the outline that will be released the 25th, and then the tax writing committees are going to take feedback and input, and then they're going to go produce their bills in the weeks ahead. And so this is the beginning of the process. It's the beginning of a very important process to achieve for the first time in a generation overhauling our tax system and giving middle-class families a much-deserved break. And so this is really the consensus of the tax writers themselves so that we're working on the same page. The whole point of all of this is the House, the Senate, and the White House are starting from the same page and the same outline, and then the tax writers are going to take it from there on the details.
Will there be Democratic votes needed in the House, though? I mean, where are you?
Well, I would love to have the Democrats supporting and working with us in a constructive way on tax reform, but we're going to do it no matter what. Yeah.
Democrats have been pretty clear that when it comes to DACA, any type of funding for a physical wall would not be part of the deal. I know it's pretty
reasonable, and that is basically what the president has asked us to do. And so we're going to start engaging in these conversations with all of our members all across the Capitol, because that's what the president has asked us to do, is Congress get on top of this issue. And by getting on top of this issue, that means not just a narrow fix for the moment, but it's actually fixing some of the underlying problems that created this problem in the first place. Casey.
You were spending most of your career on tax reform policy issues. The president is now sitting down, cut a deal last week with Democrats. He's having them over for dinner to talk about this. Are you still confident? Do you trust that this president is going to push for conservative tax reform?
Yes, I am.
Last question.
Jonathan.
about this outline that's coming out from the government. Right now, the government's scheduled to take in about $4 trillion over the next 10 years. Will this outline answer whether that will be
I'm not going to get into the baseline issues. That's something up for the budget resolutions and the budget committees. What the committees are working on are the outlines of what a new tax system needs to look like. And what that outline reflects is the consensus of the tax writers and the administration, which is the basic template that then the tax writing committees will work on in filling out those details. Thank you, everybody.